The Glacier Express journey represents the pinnacle of scenic rail travel. From its starting point in Zermatt, beneath the iconic peak of the Matterhorn, to its conclusion in St. Moritz, the playground of European nobility, the train crosses the heart of the Swiss Alps. Boarding at Zurich requires first a transfer, a smaller mountain train climbing through the foothills, through tunnels and over viaducts, depositing passengers at the junction where the Glacier Express waits. The train itself is immediately impressive. Its red and white livery is distinctive, its panoramic windows curved upward to capture not just the view alongside, but also the peaks above. Finding the assigned seat, settling into the comfortable upholstery, watching the other passengers arrange their cameras and guidebooks. The journey begins slowly, the train threading through the valley floor, passing chalets and churches and the first hints of the drama to come. The mountains rise on either side, but gently at first, their slopes forested with pine and spruce. Then the climbing begins. The gradient is almost imperceptible at first, the train gaining altitude without seeming to work. But the valley floor drops away, the villages shrink to toy scale, and suddenly the view is down as well as across. The first great viaduct appears, the Landwasser, one of the most photographed railway structures in the world. The train curves across a soaring stone arch, its carriages bending around the curve, before plunging directly into a tunnel carved into the cliff face. Looking back through the rear window, the viaduct is briefly visible, a graceful arc over the chasm below. The landscape becomes more dramatic with each kilometer. Waterfalls cascade down cliff faces, some thin and delicate, others roaring torrents that spray mist across the windows. The rock changes color from gray to ochre to black, the geological history of the Alps exposed in cross-section. Glaciers appear on the highest peaks, remnants of the ice ages when all this land was buried beneath sheets of frozen water. They are smaller now than they were a century ago, retreating up the valleys, leaving moraines and carved rock in their wake. But they remain impressive, rivers of ice clinging to the mountainsides, blue-white against the gray stone. The fellow passengers have grown quiet. Some photograph compulsively, trying to capture the uncapturable. Others simply stare, mouths slightly open, overwhelmed by the scale. This is what the journey is for, not the destination but the passage through, the hours suspended in beauty. The train climbs higher still, approaching the Oberalp Pass, the highest point of the journey at over 2,000 meters. The vegetation thins, the trees giving way to alpine meadows where wildflowers bloom in summer and snow lies deep in winter. The air outside, if one could breathe it, would be thin and sharp. At the pass, a small lake mirrors the sky. The train pauses briefly, allowing passengers to absorb the view. Endless peaks in every direction, the arc of the railway line visible both behind and ahead, the promise of more wonder to come. Then the descent begins, into a new valley system, into a new watershed where the waters flow north to the Rhine rather than south to the Mediterranean. The journey is halfway complete. The wonders have barely begun. The descent from the Oberalp Pass reveals a new landscape, subtly different from what came before. The mountains are still enormous, but the valleys are wider here, the villages larger, the feeling less of nature overwhelming humanity and more of the two in careful balance. The town of Andermatt appears, a ski resort that has reinvented itself in recent years, old chalets mixing with new architecture. The train pauses at the station, passengers disembarking and boarding, before continuing its stately progress through the valley. The engineering here is even more impressive than on the climb. The track winds along ledges carved into the cliff face, through tunnels that seemed impossible to bore, across bridges that span gaps no bridge should be able to cross. Every meter of this line represents the triumph of human determination over geological obstacles. A small chapel appears on a rocky promontory, its white walls bright against the dark stone, its steeple topped with a cross that catches the mountain light. These chapels dot the Alps, placed at high points and dangerous passes, asking for blessing on the travelers who must face the mountains. The Rhine Gorge opens up, the Ruin Alta, Switzerland's Grand Canyon. The river has cut through limestone over millennia, creating cliffs and spires and geological formations that seem almost organic. The train runs along the rim for several kilometers, the gorge dropping away to one side, the water visible far below as a thin green ribbon. Lunch arrives, delivered to the seat by an attendant in crisp uniform. The meal is elegant. Consommé to start, then a main course of veal with local vegetables, then a selection of Swiss cheeses, then a small dessert. Each course is paired with wine from the sunny valleys they have passed through. Eating while the scenery scrolls past the panoramic windows creates a strange sensation of dislocation. The world outside is wild and vast, while the world inside is civilized and comfortable. The contrast is part of the pleasure, the knowledge that adventure and luxury can coexist. After lunch, the torpor of food and wine combines with the motion of the train to create a drowsy contentment. Not quite sleeping, but not quite awake either, drifting in a zone where the mountains outside and the dreams inside begin to merge. Waking from this half-sleep as the train enters the Engadine Valley, the final approach to St. Moritz. This is one of the most beautiful valleys in the Alps, a chain of lakes reflecting the peaks, forests of larch turning gold in autumn, villages that have been resorts for over a century. The lakes parade past the windows, Silvaplana, Champfeyer, St. Moritz itself. Each is a different shade of blue or green, colored by the glacial sediment and the algae and the reflection of the sky. Some have windsurfers skimming across them, taking advantage of the Maloja wind that funnels through the valley on summer afternoons. The destination approaches. The journey is ending. 8 hours have passed in what felt like moments, the time compressed by beauty, the mind too occupied with wonder to notice the clock. St. Moritz station appears around the final curve, the end of the line, the destination that was always just an excuse for the journey. The train slows, enters the platform, stops with a final sigh of brakes. Rising stiffly from the seat that has been home for 8 hours. Gathering the bag, the camera, the memories that will need sorting later. Walking down the aisle past other passengers doing the same, the shared silence of those who have witnessed something together. Stepping onto the platform. The air is immediately different, thinner, colder, sharper. This is high altitude, nearly 2,000 meters above sea level, the lungs working harder, the heart beating faster. The town of St. Moritz stretches up the hillside, a jumble of grand hotels and chalets, shops and restaurants, the infrastructure of leisure that has been developing here for over a century. It is beautiful, but also somewhat intimidating, the playground of wealth that operates by different rules. But tonight is not about the town. Tonight is about rest, about absorbing what was seen, about letting the images settle into memory. The hotel is a smaller place, chosen for comfort rather than prestige. The room has a view of the lake, the water now reflecting the pink of sunset, the mountains beyond catching the last light on their peaks. Standing at the window, watching alpenglow paint the Piz Bernina, This is the highest peak in the Eastern Alps, over 4,000 meters, permanently snow-covered, glaciated, magnificent. In the morning light, it will be blinding white. In the evening light, it is rose and gold, and eventually purple. Dinner is simple, taken at a restaurant in the old town. Fondue, the traditional Swiss dish, bubbles in its pot while the bread waits in cubes. Each piece is speared, swirled through the hot cheese, eaten with the accompanying wine, the ritual of mountain eating that goes back generations. After dinner, walking through the quiet streets. The shops are closed, the cafes emptying, the town winding down. The lake is dark now, its surface reflecting the lights of the hotels, the stars beginning to appear overhead. The night sky at this altitude is remarkable. The thin air provides less obstruction. The remote location means less light pollution. The Milky Way is visible, a faint smear across the darkness, the galaxy viewed from within. Thinking about the day. The train journey that seemed to exist outside of time. The mountains and valleys scrolling past the panoramic windows. The viaducts and tunnels, the engineering triumphs that made this journey possible. It was a day of passive beauty, of being transported through wonder, of having nothing to do but watch. That passivity was itself a kind of action, a choice to be present, to absorb, to let beauty work its effects without interference. Back to the hotel. The bed is comfortable, the room quiet, the altitude making sleep come quickly despite the early hour. The body is tired in a way that has nothing to do with exertion, the fatigue of taking in too much, of processing more beauty than the brain was designed to handle. Tomorrow will bring the Glacier Express, the descent to Italy, more mountains and lakes and villages. But tonight is for rest. Sleep well. Dream of glaciers and viaducts. Let the journey continue in the unconscious, the panoramic windows opening onto private landscapes, the train rolling forever through the forever mountains. Good night, Switzerland. Good night, Alps. The journey sleeps with its traveler. The morning comes with sunshine, the first clear sky in the Engadine that makes the locals nod with satisfaction. The altitude makes the light sharper, more crystalline, the colors more saturated than they seem at sea level. Breakfast is taken on a terrace overlooking the lake. Fresh bread, local honey, mountain butter, strong coffee. The Piz Bernina rises white against the blue sky, looking close enough to touch though it is miles away. The lake has gone from black to silver to blue as the sun has climbed. Today will be the second journey, the Glacier Express from St. Moritz to Tirano in Italy. It is a shorter ride, but equally dramatic, crossing the highest railway crossing in the Alps before descending through dramatic spirals and switchbacks to the Mediterranean climate of northern Italy. The red train is waiting at the station. This one has open carriages for summer viewing, no glass between the passenger and the mountainscape. Finding a seat on an open car, feeling the cool mountain air, the sun warm on the face. The journey begins with a climb through the upper Engadine. The lakes appear below one by one, their colors shifting with the depth and the angle of the sun. Larch forests cover the slopes, their needles beginning to turn gold even in early autumn. The Bernina Pass approaches. At nearly 2,300 meters, this is the highest railway crossing in the Alps, and one of the most spectacular anywhere in the world. The track runs along a narrow ridge with drops on both sides, the view extending for miles in every direction. At the summit, a small lake reflects the peaks. A glacier calves into the water, chunks of ice floating on the surface. The air is cold enough to need a jacket, the sun warm enough to remove it moments later. The altitude creates its own weather, its own rules. Then the descent begins. The most famous section is the Brusio spiral, where the track loops back on itself in a perfect circle, the train briefly running under its own rear carriages. Looking out the side of the open carriage, the loop is visible, an engineering marvel that solved the problem of descending too steeply. The landscape changes with the descent. The alpine terrain gives way to something gentler, more Mediterranean. Chestnut trees replace larches. The air warms. Vineyards appear on the south-facing slopes. Crossing the border into Italy is marked only by a sign, but the character of the villages changes immediately. The Swiss precision gives way to Italian exuberance. The neutrality of the architecture becomes warmth. The reserved efficiency becomes conviviality. The train arrives in Tirano, a small Italian town with a Baroque church and a pleasant square. This is the end of the line, the point at which the mountain railway meets the lowland, the Alps finally releasing their hold. Disembarking into Italian air. It smells different here. Olive oil and oregano, coffee and sun-warmed stone. The transition is complete. The journey through Switzerland ends in another country, another language, another way of being. But the mountains remain visible in the north, the peaks that were crossed, the passes that were conquered. They will always be there, patient and enormous, waiting for the next traveler to ride their rails. Arrivedersei, Switzerland. Grazie, Bernina. The mountains have been crossed. The plains await. The second afternoon on the Glacier Express brings a subtle shift in attention. The morning was for external gazing, for absorbing the endless procession of peaks and valleys. The afternoon is for internal processing, for letting the experience settle. The train rocks gently as it navigates a series of tunnels and bridges. The motion is hypnotic, the rhythm consistent, the body surrendering to the trajectory while the mind wanders freely. Thinking about the nature of landscape. These mountains were formed by collision, by the African plate crashing into the European plate over millions of years, pushing up stone that had been ocean floor. The Alps are fossils of unimaginable violence, their serene beauty the product of catastrophe. And yet they are peaceful now. The violence is over, at least on human timescales. The mountains simply stand, eroding slowly, their glaciers retreating, their forests climbing higher as the climate warms. The change is invisible from day to day, but inevitable over centuries. The train is also a product of catastrophe, in a sense. It was built through decades of labor, through the sacrifice of workers who died in avalanches and tunnel collapses, through the investment of resources that could have gone elsewhere. The journey that seems so effortless today was hard-won by earlier generations. Appreciating not just the view, but the systems that make the view accessible. The track maintenance crews who work through the night. The engineers who design the panoramic windows. The cooks in the dining car who produce elegant meals in a moving kitchen. Every experience rests on the labor of others. Every pleasure is the product of effort. Gratitude extends not just to the mountains, but to all who made this moment possible. The afternoon light is softer now, the harsh shadows of midday giving way to warmer tones. The peaks that seemed stark and white now show their colors: gray granite and red rust, green lichen and black volcanic rock. The Alps are not monochrome, but painted in subtle shades. A village appears in the valley below, its church spire catching the light, its houses clustered around the central square. Smoke rises from chimneys, signs of life, Signs of people going about their daily routines while the train of tourists passes overhead. Wondering about those lives. What is it like to live in a village, visited by thousands, but known by few? To see the same mountains daily that others travel across the world to glimpse. Does familiarity breed indifference, or does the beauty remain fresh year after year? Perhaps both. Perhaps the residents have learned to see the mountains with different eyes, not as spectacle, but as home. Perhaps the beauty is not in the peaks themselves, but in the relationship with them, the daily presence, the seasonal changes, the lifelong acquaintance. The train continues. The villages pass. The peaks rotate through their angles. The afternoon deepens toward evening. One more night in St. Moritz. One more dinner overlooking the lake. One more sleep at altitude, dreaming of clouds and cliffs and the endless motion of steel on rails. The journey is almost over, but its effects are just beginning. The hours in Toronto are pleasant and unplanned. Walking the narrow streets of the old town, ducking into shops and cafes, absorbing the sudden immersion in Italian culture after days of Swiss precision. Lunch is at a trattoria, the menu handwritten, the wine local, the pasta made that morning. The food is simple and perfect. Tagliatelle with wild mushrooms gathered from the mountain slopes, a green salad dressed with oil that tastes of sunshine, a tiramisu that dissolves on the tongue. The afternoon is for sitting in the central piazza, watching Italian life unfold. Old men play cards in the shade. Children chase pigeons. A lady in black carries her shopping in a wheeled cart. The pace is human, unhurried content. But the mountains call again. The return journey on the Glacier Express must be made, the climb back to St. Moritz, the crossing of the pass in late afternoon light. Boarding the train again, finding a seat facing backward to see what is left behind rather than what approaches. The Italian plain recedes, the vineyards and olive groves shrinking behind the rising track. The spiral at Brusio is even more impressive on the ascent, the train straining up the grade, the loop clearly visible from inside. The engineering is audacious, the execution perfect, Swiss precision applied to Italian terrain. The Mediterranean air thins into alpine air. The warmth fades into coolness. The chestnuts give way to larches. The border passes, unmarked and unremarked, and Switzerland wraps around the train once more. The Bernina Pass at golden hour is transcendent. The glacier is lit from the side, its crevasses revealed in dramatic shadow. The lake catches the sunset, turning from blue to gold to rose. The peaks around are touched with alpenglow, pink and orange, and finally purple. Stopping to photograph, though photographs cannot capture what the eyes see. They cannot capture the cold, the altitude, the silence, the scale. They can only hint at the reality that overwhelmed the senses. Back to St. Moritz's darkness falls. The lake is a mirror of stars. The hotels glow their yellow lights. The mountains are shapes against the night sky, sensed rather than seen. The final night in Switzerland. The final dinner, looking out at the lake. The final walk through the old town, each step a small goodbye. Tomorrow will bring the journey home, the return to lowlands and crowds, and the world that is not mountains. But tonight, there is still this. The thin air, the clear water, the peaks always present on the horizon. Switzerland has been good. The trains have done their work, carrying passengers through wonder hour after hour, crossing passes and valleys with the same precision that Swiss watches keep time. It will be missed. It is already being missed, even while still here. That is the curse of travel, the knowledge that departure is coming, that every beautiful evening is also an ending. But the memory will remain. The panoramic windows will open forever in the mind, showing mountains that never fade, passes that never close, beauty that death itself cannot diminish. Good night, Switzerland. The trains are sleeping. The mountains keep their vigil. Until morning. Until the next crossing. Until the heart returns. The evening descends on scent. Moritz in shades of purple and gold. The lake has become a mirror of the dying light, each boat at anchor doubled in perfect reflection. The mountains are silhouettes now, their peaks sharp against the fading sky. Finding a restaurant with a terrace overlooking the water. The evening is cool, but not cold. The altitude stealing heat, but the shelter of the building providing warmth. A blanket is offered for the knees, European hospitality against alpine chill. The menu is Franco-Swiss, a blend of French technique and mountain ingredients. Ordering the raclette, the famous melted cheese served over potatoes and pickles. The cheese wheel is brought to the table on its special heating element, the top surface melting and bubbling. The waiter scrapes the molten cheese onto the plate with practiced expertise. It pools around the potatoes, clings to the cornichons, creates a rich and satisfying mess. Eating slowly, savoring the simplicity elevated to perfection. The wine is local, from the sunny slopes of the valley, a crisp white that cuts through the richness of the cheese. Each sip refreshes the palate, prepares it for the next bite. After dinner, walking the shore of the lake. The path is lit by discreet lamps, pools of light between stretches of darkness. Other walkers pass, couples and families, enjoying the mountain evening. The silence is profound between the sounds of footsteps and conversation. No traffic, no urban hum, just the occasional splash of a fish and the distant clang of a cowbell from farms on the upper slopes. Finding a bench and sitting. The stars are appearing now, sharp and bright at this altitude. The Milky Way is visible, that faint band of light that city dwellers have forgotten exists. The constellations wheel overhead, the same patterns that guided ancient travelers. Thinking about the day. The Glacier Express journey that seemed to last both forever and no time at all. The mountains scrolling past the panoramic windows. The dining car with its white tablecloths and fine service. The engineering marvels of viaducts and tunnels. It was a day of movement without effort, of travel without driving, of scenery consumed while sipping wine. The train did the work. The passenger simply watched and absorbed. This is what luxury travel means. Not just comfort, but the removal of barriers between the self and the experience. No navigation, no traffic, no decisions. Just the journey and its witnesses. Rising from the bench, reluctantly. The night is growing colder, the blanket of stars drawing heat from the earth. Time to return to the hotel, to the warm bed, to the anticipation of tomorrow's journey. Walking back through the quiet streets, past the closed shops and the glowing hotels. Scent. Moritz is settling into its mountain sleep, preparing for another day of visitors seeking beauty and altitude. The hotel welcomes with its warm lobby. The elevator rises to the room with its view. The bed is turned down, a chocolate on the pillow. Lying in darkness, the events of the day replaying. The mountains are still there behind the closed eyes, scrolling endlessly, monument after perfect monument. Sleep comes slowly, resisted, the mind not wanting to release the day. But eventually the body wins, the exhaustion of altitude and sensation pulling consciousness down into rest. The trains sleep in their stations. The mountains stand their eternal vigil. The traveler dreams of panoramic windows and endless views. Good night, Switzerland. The journey continues in dreams. The return journey from St. Moritz to Chur covers much of the same ground as the arrival, but the experience is transformed by familiarity. The peaks that seemed overwhelming on the first day are now recognizable, almost friendly. The villages that blurred past are now named and placed. The train winds down through the Engadine, past the same lakes and forests, the same hotels and chalets, the same spectacular views. But the mind processes them differently. Not discovery, but recognition. Not surprise, but confirmation. This is the rhythm of travel. The outbound journey is for novelty, for the shock of the new. The return journey is for consolidation, for processing what has been seen. The same landscape serves both purposes, depending on the direction of travel. At Chur, changing trains for the Glacier Express route. The famous red carriages wait on the platform, panoramic windows glinting in the afternoon sun. Finding a seat, settling in, watching as the train fills with passengers beginning their own journeys. The Glacier Express runs in both directions. While these passengers are starting, others are finishing. The train is both departure and arrival, depending on perspective. This seems profound, though perhaps it is just obvious. Pulling out of Chur, beginning the long climb toward the Oberalp Pass. The route that was descended days ago will now be ascended. The loops and tunnels work in reverse. The grades that were easy coming down are harder going up. The views remain spectacular, even on second viewing. The Rhine Gorge, its walls of rock rising on either side. The Landwasser Viaduct, curving impossibly into the cliff face. The high meadows where cows graze beside the tracks, their bells audible through the open windows. But attention has shifted. Instead of straining to see everything, the eye rests on particular details. A barn weathered to silver gray. A waterfall catching the light. A farmer waving at the train. The journey has become contemplative rather than urgent. The dining car is visited again, for coffee and cake, for the pleasure of sitting in a moving restaurant surrounded by moving scenery. The waiter recognizes returning passengers and smiles. There is something satisfying about being recognized, about belonging even briefly to this community of travelers. The hours pass. The kilometers accumulate. The daylight fades from afternoon gold to evening blue. Soon the Oberalp Pass will be crossed, the journey half complete. Tomorrow will bring another transfer, another train, another piece of the puzzle that is Swiss rail travel. But tonight is for the journey itself, for the motion and the views and the slowly settling memories. The wheels turn. The mountains pass. The light changes. All journeys end. All journeys continue. This one is both. The evening in St. Moritz is spent processing the day. A hotel room with a view of the lake, simple but comfortable, provides the necessary stillness. Standing at the window as twilight deepens. The lake has gone from gold to silver to deep blue. The mountains are silhouettes now, darker areas against the dark sky. The first stars appear, different stars than last night, the altitude and latitude shifting the celestial perspective. Dinner is taken at a small restaurant in the old town. The building is centuries old, the walls thick, the ceiling low. A fire burns in the hearth. The menu is simple mountain food: polenta with cheese and onions, a hearty stew, local wine in heavy glasses. Eating slowly, watching the fire. The day replays in the mind, a slideshow of images. The first glimpse of the high peaks. The vertiginous crossing of the Landwasser Viaduct. The stark beauty of the Oberalp Pass. The gentle descent into the Engadine. The endless parade of villages and meadows and waterfalls. It was a day of passive beauty, of watching rather than doing. The train did the work, the eyes did the perceiving. But passive is not the same as inactive. The mind was engaged the entire time, processing, categorizing, marveling. After dinner, walking through the quiet streets. The shops are closed now, their windows dark. The tourists have retreated to their hotels. The town belongs to itself again, its residents going about their evening routines. The lake path is illuminated by tasteful lamps, creating pools of light in the darkness. Walking along the shore, the water lapping softly against the stones. The mountains are invisible now, present only as absences, their bulk blocking the stars along the horizon. Standing at the water's edge, looking out. The train journey is over, but its effects linger. The rhythm of motion is still in the body, the scenery still in the eyes. Tomorrow will bring different transportation, different destinations. But today was about the journey itself, about the hours suspended between places, about the world seen through glass. Back to the hotel. The bed is comfortable, the room quiet. Lying in the darkness, the images continue to unspool. The faces of fellow passengers, also entranced by the views. The waiters in the dining car, performing their ballet of service. The villages flashing past, each one a complete world glimpsed and lost in seconds. Sleep comes slowly, the mind too active, too full. But eventually, the images fade. The rhythm of remembered motion becomes the rhythm of breathing, and dreams arrive. Dreams of mountains and trains, of endless horizons and impossible valleys. Dreams of motion through beauty, of glass between self and world. Dreams of Switzerland. The return journey on the second day gives an opportunity to see the mountains from a different angle. Sitting on the opposite side of the car from the outbound journey, the same landscape reveals different aspects. The late afternoon light is warmer now, more golden. The shadows fall in new directions. The villages that were glimpsed in passing become longer observations, their church spires and clustered houses occupying the window for minutes instead of seconds. Crossing the Landwasser Viaduct for the second time. This time, sitting on the side that looks directly down the valley, seeing the arc of the bridge in its full context. The drop is still vertiginous, still thrilling, but now more beautiful than frightening. The mind has adjusted to the scale. Other passengers are drowsier on the return journey. Some have surrendered to sleep, their heads lolling against the windows. Some read books or check phones, their wonder quota already exceeded. But some, like this traveler, continue watching, unwilling to waste a single kilometer. The Glacier Express proceeds at its stately pace, the driver in no hurry, the timetable sacred but unhurried. There are stations where other trains wait for it to pass, their schedules adjusted around this iconic journey. Twilight comes earlier than expected, the mountains stealing the sun, creating artificial evening while the peaks still glow with alpenglow. The contrast is remarkable. Valley floor already in shadow, summit still blazing with the last light. The lakes of the upper Engadine reflect this light, becoming mirrors of gold and purple. Their surfaces are still, the wind having died with the sun. Only the wake of a small boat disturbs the reflections. Arriving at St. Moritz Station as the first stars appear. The journey is complete. 2 crossings of the Alps, 1 in each direction, a complete circuit of wonder. Walking to the hotel through streets that are now familiar. The shops are closing, their owners pulling down shutters, heading home. The restaurants are lighting candles, preparing for the evening service. The world is winding down. Dinner is simpler tonight, taken at a small pizzeria found on a back street. The pizza is authentic, thin-crusted and wood-fired, the toppings fresh and flavorful. After days of fondue and raclette, the change is welcome. The wine is Italian, crossing the border that the train crossed today. It tastes of sun and soil and the southern slopes that were visible through the windows. It reminds that beyond these mountains lies another world, another culture, another way of being. Walking back to the hotel along the lake. The stars are out in force now, the Milky Way visible even over the town's modest light pollution. The mountains are dark shapes against the sky, their presence felt even when not seen. Tomorrow will bring the journey home. The trains to the airport, the lines at security, the long flight across oceans. The re-entry into ordinary life. But tonight there is still this. The alpine air, the mountain silence, the stars wheeling overhead. There is still the knowledge that somewhere, always, the Glacier Express is crossing its passes, its panoramic windows showing beauty to new eyes. That knowledge is a gift. That memory is a treasure. That experience is now part of the fabric of self. Back to the hotel. Back to the comfortable bed. Back to dreams of mountains and trains and endless views. Sleep well. The Alps stand guard. The journey is complete. But the beauty remains. Forever. The second day on the Glacier Express begins with breakfast in the hotel overlooking Lake St. Moritz. Fresh bread with local honey. Alpine butter that tastes different from lowland varieties. Strong coffee to cut through the altitude-induced grogginess. The day's journey will take a different route, down from St. Moritz through the Engadine Valley, then over the Bernina Pass to Italy. This is the Bernina Express segment, often considered even more dramatic than the Glacier Express, though shorter. The train departs from St. Moritz Station at mid-morning. The coaches are red and white, the same livery as yesterday, but some have open-air carriages that allow unobstructed views of the landscape. Choosing one of these, wrapping up in scarves against the cold, prepared to be fully exposed to the mountain air. The route begins with a descent through the upper Engadine. The valley here is broad and flat, the lakes connected by the Inn River, which will eventually flow through Austria and Germany to join the Danube. Following it downstream, watching the reflections of peaks in the still water. Then the climb begins. The Bernina Pass is the highest railway crossing in the Alps, nearly 2,300 meters, and the train must gain altitude rapidly. The grade steepens. The views intensify. The vegetation thins as the train climbs above the tree line. The loops and spirals are even more dramatic than the Glacier Express. At the Brusio spiral, the track loops back on itself, the train briefly crossing over its own tail. Looking out the open-air window, the geometry is visible, the elegant solution to an impossible slope. The summit of the pass is marked by a small lake, its surface frozen even in summer, its color an impossible shade of blue. The Piz Bernina rises nearby, the highest peak in the eastern Alps, its glaciers catching the midday sun. Then the descent begins, and everything changes. The southern side of the Alps is warmer, greener, more Mediterranean. The Italian influence appears immediately. The architecture changes, the language on the signs changes, the feel of the air changes. The train winds down through villages that seem to belong to a different world. Red geraniums in window boxes. Stone houses with flat roofs. Vineyards clinging to impossible slopes. The Alps are behind now, visible through the rear window as a wall of white disappearing into the distance. Tirano arrives, the end of the line, the Italian border. The train has crossed through 3 languages: German, Romansh, Italian. It has climbed to Alpine heights and descended to Mediterranean valleys. It has traversed the spine of Europe in a few hours, disembarking into Italian air. The temperature is noticeably warmer. The light is softer, more golden. The sounds of Italian conversation fill the streets. This is a different country, a different culture, reached by simply sitting in a train and letting the locomotive do its work. Finding a cafe in the central square. Ordering an espresso, because this is Italy now and espresso is required. Watching the locals go about their afternoon business, unhurried, content in their small town at the foot of the mountains. The return train departs in 2 hours. Time enough to wander, to eat, to absorb the contrast between where the morning began and where the afternoon has arrived. The mountains watch from the north. The plains stretch to the south. The traveler sits between, neither here nor there, suspended in the liminal space of the border. This is what the mountain railways offer. Not just transport, but transformation. The passage through changes everything. The morning insect. Moritz is crystalline. The sky is perfectly clear, the air cold and sharp, the mountains revealed in every detail against the deep blue sky. This is the Switzerland of postcards, every element in sharp focus. Breakfast on a terrace overlooking the lake. Coffee and croissants, orange juice and yogurt, the simple continental breakfast that never grows old. The sun is bright but not yet warm, the altitude stealing the power from its rays. Looking at the mountains across the lake. The Piz Bernina, the highest peak in the Eastern Alps, dominates the view. Its summit is over 4,000 meters, permanently snow-capped, glaciers flowing down its flanks. It looks impossible, too dramatic to be real, a painted backdrop that cannot be actual geography. But it is real. It has been standing there for millions of years, slowly being shaped by ice and weather, and it will stand for millions more. The human activity at its base, the hotels and trains and tourists, is nothing to it. A flicker. A moment. The morning is for exploration. Walking through the old town, past the leaning tower that is St. Moritz's oldest landmark, past the church and the museum and the shops selling luxury goods to wealthy visitors. Then up, climbing the hillside path that leads to the upper meadows. The exertion is harder at this altitude, the thin air providing less oxygen, the heart working harder. But the effort is rewarded with each step, the view expanding, the town shrinking to toy-like proportions below. Reaching a viewpoint, a bench placed at a particularly scenic lookout. Sitting, breathing hard, waiting for the heart rate to settle. The whole valley is spread below. The lakes shimmer blue and green. The forests climb the slopes. The peaks march away in every direction. Staying for an hour, just watching. The light changes as the sun climbs, the shadows shrinking, the colors brightening. Paragliders launch from a nearby peak, their colorful canopies spiraling down toward the valley floor. A train appears on the far side of the valley, a toy train on a toy track, impossibly small against the landscape. Eventually, descending. The legs are tired, the altitude and exercise taking their toll. But the body feels good, the lungs cleaned by the thin air, the stress and tension of regular life left somewhere far below. The afternoon is for the next journey. A different train, shorter but equally scenic, carrying passengers back toward the outside world. The Glacier Express this time, descending from the high Alps to the Italian border, from Switzerland to the lake country of northern Italy. But that is another journey, another story. For now, just this moment. This terrace, this coffee, this view of mountains reflected in still water. Switzerland, land of precision and beauty. Land of trains that run on time and scenery that stops time. A day on the Glacier Express. A night in the mountains. A morning of crisp air and clear views. It is enough. It is everything. Goodbye, Switzerland. The mountains will wait. The trains will run. Until the next journey through heaven on rails. The final morning in Switzerland begins with one last view of the lake. Standing at the hotel window, coffee in hand, watching the light transform the water from black to silver to blue. The Piz Bernina catches the first sun, its snow turning from gray to white to blinding gold. Packing brings the familiar ritual of departure. Each item placed in the bag is a small goodbye. The hiking boots that walk the alpine paths. The jacket that provided warmth on the open-air train. The guidebook that was read and then set aside as the reality exceeded the descriptions. The train to Zurich is a slower journey, less dramatic but no less beautiful. The Engadine Valley scrolls past at a gentler pace, its lakes and forests now familiar, almost intimate. This is not the panoramic wonder of the Glacier Express, but the comfortable return of a traveler who knows the way. The mountains recede with each kilometer. The peaks that were so close, so dominant, shrink into the distance. The valleys widen. The altitude drops. The thin, clear air thickens into something more ordinary. Zurich appears, modern and bustling, a city that works rather than a landscape that inspires. The station is a hub of efficiency, trains coming and going with Swiss precision, passengers hurrying to their next destinations. The flight home is uneventful, as flights should be. Looking out the window as the Alps scroll past far below, the peaks now just white dots on a relief map, reduced to geography, their grandeur visible only to those who have walked among them. But the memory is intact. The Glacier Express windows are still open in the mind, still showing the mountains in their endless variety. The Landwasser Viaduct still curves through the dream. The Bernina Pass still glitters with glacier light. The open-air carriages still carry their eternal passengers through beauty that never fades. This is what travel gives. Not just the experience, but the memory of the experience, accessible forever, immune to time, a reservoir of beauty against the grayness of ordinary days. When the world seems too flat, too busy, too devoid of wonder, the mountains will be there in the memory. The trains will run their eternal routes. The panoramic windows will reveal their endless views. It is not the same as being there. Nothing is the same as being there. But it is something. It is enough. The journey continues in the heart. The Alpine crossing never ends. Goodbye, Switzerland. Safe travels. Until the next summit. until the next panorama, until the heart crosses the Alps again. The third morning on the Swiss train journey brings a slower pace. Having covered the dramatic routes of the Glacier Express and Bernino Express, today is for the quieter pleasures of Swiss rail travel. The destination is Lake Geneva, reached via the chocolate train, though officially it is called the Mob Panoramic Line. The train runs from Montreux to Chateaudoux, through countryside less dramatic than the Alps, but equally beautiful in its way. The coaches are vintage style, wood-paneled and comfortable. Coffee and croissants are served as the train climbs through the hills above Montreux. The lake appears in glimpses through the trees, its surface silver in the morning light, before disappearing as the train gains altitude. The route passes through the cheese-making region of Gruyères. The castle is visible from the train, perched on its hill, medieval and postcard perfect. A stop at the station allows time for a brief visit, climbing to the castle itself, admiring the views, sampling the cheese that takes its name from this place. The cheese is nothing like the processed versions sold abroad. It is complex, slightly grainy, with a depth of flavor that comes from centuries of refinement. Eating it here, where it was made, changes entirely what the word Gruyère means. The train continues to Chateaudoux, a village known for hot air ballooning. The sky often fills with colorful balloons, drifting over the valley, their silence a contrast to the mechanical transport below. Today a single balloon is visible, orange against the blue, rising on thermal currents. The return journey takes a different route, through Gstaad and over the Sonnen Pass. Gstaad is famous for its wealth, its celebrity residents, its exclusive chalets. From the train, it appears simply as another Swiss village, orderly and clean, its riches concealed behind appropriate facades. Switzerland does not flaunt wealth. The culture values discretion. The billionaire's chalet looks much like the farmer's chalet from the outside. Only the details reveal the difference. The quality of materials, the precision of maintenance, the cars parked in the driveways. The train descends back to Lake Geneva as afternoon light turns the water golden. The vineyards of Lavox terrace the slopes above the lake, their rows following the contours of the land, creating geometric patterns that are both functional and beautiful. UNESCO has designated these vineyards a World Heritage Site. They have been cultivated since Roman times, shaped by generations who worked the steep slopes by hand. The wine they produce is rarely exported. It is drunk locally, its rarity adding to its value. Arriving in Lausanne as evening approaches, the city rises from the lake in tears, its medieval center perched above the modern waterfront. The cathedral's spire is visible from everywhere, a landmark that has oriented travelers for 8 centuries. Finding a cafe on the lakefront, ordering a glass of the local wine, watching the last light fade over the water, feeling the accumulated pleasure of 3 days spent in motion. The train journey is complete, but the journey itself continues, carried forward in memory, shaping future thoughts of Switzerland.